So you're revising a novel. Fun! Or not so fun. But how do you know what to keep and what to cut? Well, in this video, I'm giving you my top 5 reasons why scenes get deleted from novels to hopefully make your cutting, keeping decisions easier. Let's do it. Hello writers, Jessica Brody here, author of the #1 best-selling plotting guides, Save the Cat Writes a Novel and Save the Cat Writes a Young Adult Novel, as well as the founder of the Writing Mastery Academy. So yeah, revisions. They're a beast, am I right? I'm currently revising a new novel. Sorry, can't tell you anything about it. It's a secret project. But interestingly enough, I discovered something in the revision process. As I sort through my scenes and determine what to keep and what to cut, I've been finding that most of the scene cards that I've labeled with cut on my storyboard fit into one of 5 categories. These are by no means the only reasons you might cut a scene from a novel, but in thinking back on my previous novel revisions, I think most of my cut scenes can be categorized under one of these 5 labels. So I thought I'd share these categories in case it helps you sort through your own scenes and decide what's worth keeping in your novel and what's not. Reason number 1, duplicate information. When writing a first draft during which you're essentially discovering the story, it can be very easy to include scenes that serve the same basic purpose or reveal the same type of information as another scene, especially if you follow a fast drafting method like the one I teach in my novel fast drafting course. By definition, fast drafting is always writing forward, never going back to edit. And sometimes when I'm really into the fast drafting, I don't even go back to review what I've written in previous days to avoid the temptation to edit. So naturally, I end up forgetting that I already have a scene whose purpose is to introduce the main character's biggest fear, or flash back to their traumatic breakup, or deliver some crucial piece of information about the world. In the revision process, when I'm taking inventory of my scenes, I will almost always find scenes that essentially serve the same purpose. That's when I either get out my scissors and cut the duplicate scene completely, or get out my needle and thread and attempt to stitch the 2 scenes together. If you want to learn more about fast drafting, I've included a link to my online self-paced fast drafting course in the description below. Reason number 2, pacing killers. This is a big one. In my first drafts, I tend to have a lot of scenes or partial scenes that come smack dab in the middle of a super exciting, riveting, fast-paced section of the plot, and then screech! Bring it to a jolting halt. Maybe the scene is just in the wrong place and needs to be moved. Or sometimes it's a scene that, looking back, doesn't really belong in the story at all and can be snipped right on out of there. This typically happens when I'm working out the story as I write the story, which happens a lot in first drafts. Maybe I'm just discovering something new about the character's backstory, and so I add it in right there in the middle of all of the action when really it goes somewhere else or doesn't need to be spelled out at all. Or sometimes I'll simply take way too long to get a character from point A to point B, when I could just cut all of that and have them be at point B at the start of the next scene. When drafting, these explorations or journeys might feel super important, but when we step back and look at the novel as a whole in the revision process, we see that we don't actually have to spend 3 pages describing the character's uneventful commute to work. We can just put them at work and keep the plot moving forward at a nice brisk pace. Reason number 3. Repetitive actions, events, or plot devices. I'll often get so inspired by an idea for a certain action or event that I'll end up including it more than once in my first draft. Like a clever way that a character finds a piece of information, a surprise visitor at the door, or the lights going out just as the character's about to achieve some important goal. In reviewing my manuscript, I'll often find more than one instance of these exact same events, possibly triggering different realizations or discoveries, but they still feel repetitive. When writing the System Divine trilogy with Joanne Rendell, we do this often in our early drafts. One of our ongoing inside jokes was how often our characters passed out and came to in a totally different scene. There they go, fainting again like damsels in distress, we'd often say. In one draft of the second book, one of our characters had at least 3 head injuries. Whenever we'd find another one on the page, we'd laugh at our eagerness to bring bodily harm to our poor characters, and then either delete or revise the scene. So as you revise your own novel, be on the lookout for those plot devices, actions, or events that you've already used or perhaps overused. If you're liking this video, be sure to download my free novel revision kickstart guide, which will put you on the fast track to an organized and efficient novel revision process. I'll put a link to where you can download your free copy in the description below. Moving on to reason number 4. Discordant tone. One of these things is not like the other. Remember that beloved Sesame Street game? Oftentimes, while writing my first drafts, I'm still feeling out the tone of the story. Perhaps I think the book is going to be a dramedy, so I'll sprinkle in all of these funny scenes to lighten the mood. Then in reading back one of those scenes, I'm like, whoa, read the room. It feels totally out of place tonally with the rest of the story. Again, all of this is fine. First drafts are about discovery. Second drafts and third drafts and fourth drafts and fifth drafts are about fixing. When I find these tonally discordant scenes, I typically cut them out and try to figure out where and how to deliver any important information elsewhere in the story. And finally, reason number 5. It doesn't move the plot forward. This is my favorite one of all. Well, actually, no, not really. I actually hate this one. I can't tell you how many cherished scenes I've had to cut because they fell into this category. And trust me, I try to argue for every single one. But it's some of my best writing. But it's so funny. But the dialogue is so clever. While all of that may be, if it doesn't move the plot forward or deliver some piece of essential new information, then I usually come to the same sad conclusion. It has to go. I'm convinced this is where the phrase "kill your darlings" originates. And after I'm done holding vigil for my murdered scene, I read the manuscript back and begrudgingly admit that it does read better without that unnecessary scene weighing it down. How can you tell if the scene doesn't move the plot forward or is unnecessary? Easy. Cut it out and see if the rest of your story collapses like a house of cards. If it doesn't, then it wasn't that essential to the overall structure or integrity of the story. I call this the lift-out test, and I actually have a whole video on this tip, which I'll link to in the description below if you'd like to check it out. So there you go, my top 5 reasons that scenes get deleted from my first drafts. I hope this sparked some inspiration for your own novel revision process or your current work in progress. But I'll be honest, revision is a tricky thing. It can be easy to revise in circles, second-guessing every little change and doing way more work than you need to. That's why I created the complete novel revision course to walk you step by step through the entire revision process, hand you a tried and true formalized revision strategy, and ensure you're always doing the right task at the right time. I even revise a novel right along with you so you can see how I approach every step of the process. It's like having me as your personal revision coach. The course is available on demand so you can go at your own pace. I've linked to that course in the description below if you want to check it out. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy writing and happy revising.